Welcome back to the Darkling Chronicles. Tonight's story comes from Helen. Thank you so much for sending in your story, Helen. Now this kind of comes in two parts. I'm going to share the first part now and the second part later. The funny part is Helen didn't think these stories were good enough to share, but they are so good and I really hope you enjoy them too. And tonight's ghost story is called The Mysterious Footsteps. Helen starts her email by saying, "Hello, loving your creepy stories. Thank you so much, Helen. I love having you here and people like-minded who love these creepy stories too. We're all weirdos, aren't we?" Helen says, "When I was 17, 18, I got my first job working in an office as an assistant/receptionist. This is in the offices above Bond Street Tube Station in London's West End." I mean, that's pretty cool. Helen doesn't know how old the building was, but she said it was really old and it had long, dark corridors, which were quite higgledy-piggledy. What a term. I love it. She says, "Very often I would be in our little office on my own. Our manager's office was in the room next door. So I'd be sitting at my desk, working, and I'd hear footsteps walk all the way down the corridor, right up to our office door, and then it would stop. She says, at first I assumed it was my manager, but I'd never hear her go into her office after the footsteps, which was weird." That's really weird. She didn't think too much of it at first, but it happened so many times that she decided the next time she'd hear it, she'd get up really quickly and run to the door and open it. So she hears it again. She jumps up and she runs to the door in about 2 seconds and there was no one there. Then one day her colleague takes a phone call from the owner of the cleaning services that cleans their offices. One of her cleaning staff had reported a ghostly incident that terrified her so much that she didn't want to clean for this particular building anymore. She said she'd been on the 5th floor. Now Helen points out that the 5th floor is really eerie. It had this really heavy feeling and apparently light bulbs would need to be changed constantly. She said she used to run down this corridor because it felt like something was behind her. Ooh. Anyway, she says the cleaner on the 5th floor was wiping down the skirting boards and suddenly felt freezing cold. She turned around and standing in front of her was a man in a top hat and tails. What? Possibly the worst part about this was that he had no face. I can't even imagine seeing that. Helen doesn't know if this cleaner ran or hid, but she was terrified enough not to come back, and that just says enough. Thank you so much for sending in that story, Helen. If you have your own ghost story, please email me, thedarklingchronicles25@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you, or you can send me a message on here, it's not a problem. Until then, follow for more.